Are going to sound off today. And we got some things that have been in the news lately that we really want to talk about, Rebecca. And one of them is the crying and belly aching over comedy skits. And what exactly are we talking about? You don't know?
I mean,
Oh, you don't know. Okay.
No, I know what happened.
Okay.
But I don't understand the backlash.
And that's my point. Ladies and gentlemen, we are a country where we are allowed to jest about so many different things. We can jest about politics. One of the main things that we roast are our political candidates and our public figures.
Of course.
And the thing about it is when you put yourself out there as a public figure, you are saying that I am equipped to handle the backlash. I am equipped to let it be like water off of a duck's back if people decide that they want to roast me or to make fun of me or whatever. At least you know that when that happens, they're listening to what you're saying and they're listening to what's going on. But recently, and we are talking about, let's just break it down, Rebecca. We are talking about the recent rebuttal. Would it be called a rebuttal, or the recent reaction?
Yeah.
Of Erica Kirk to a skit that the comedian Drewski performed about, quote, end quote, conservative women. He didn't call anyone's name. He did not say anything about anyone in particular. He simply did
A joke.
a comedy skit.
Right.
Absolutely. And the way that people have been um, absolutely going in on this comedian. Now, I knew this when first of all, when I saw it, I thought it was, I thought it was hilarious. Okay, I don't think
I
it
do
was
too.
mocking. I don't think it was mocking any uh, uh, arena of her being a widow or anything about that. I don't think it had anything to do with that. It was simply mocking the over the top dramatics that are portrayed sometimes in, when she's interviewed.
Right.
And and it is dramatic. And sometimes when you really are equipped to be in front of people in that manner, you
will be mocked. You will be
you're gonna be mocked and you're gonna be teased, and you got to learn how to laugh along with it. And you know what? I think that if she was smart, she would lean into it and give him a little bit more fodder to play with. That would get her name in front of a whole lot more people that don't even know who she is.
Right.
But the thing about it is, we've got to understand that if you are a public figure, and if you have put yourself in the position of being someone that is in the public eye, and that may even be considered somewhat controversial, you got to be prepared for it.
You do. You most definitely do. You most definitely.
Now, when you saw it, what did you think, Rebecca?
Believe it or not, when I first saw it, I didn't even think about Erica Kirk.
Yeah.
I didn't. I just thought Drewski was making fun of this
Conservative women. Yeah.
conservative woman. I didn't even put
Two and two together.
I didn't even put two and two together. And for the most part, everybody who knows me knows that I'm pretty politically astute and in tune to everything that's going on. So I know if I missed it, a lot of people missed it. So he was just making fun of.
Well, you know what? When I saw it, I got the correlation immediately, and I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious because honestly, there was nothing nasty in the jest. There was nothing nasty. The motions were exaggerated, and the comedy was exaggerated. But what's
His look was very exaggerated.
the look was very exaggerated, but the look was dead on. And if the look wasn't dead on, I don't think she would have been as upset. You know?
You don't think so?
Oh no, the look was dead on. Even when he came into the meeting with the
Because-
sparklers and the fireworks
But
and
what
all
I'm
that.
saying, Erica Kirk is not a big girl, so
Oh no, but the look, the look, the wig. If you saw, we should have done a picture. But as soon as I saw it, I knew and especially when I saw the expressions in the camera, the exaggerated expressions, I was like, she'll probably go back and take a look at that and say, you know what, do I really do that? Well, if she didn't before, now.
she took it way left field.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Even her response on Twitter, well, she had two different responses.
Mm-hmm.
She had one to Elon, begging Elon to take it down, and of course, Elon said no.
Right.
And anytime Elon gets any chance to quote unquote degrade a woman, he's not going,
Back down.
he's not
Yes.
going back down because he's a misogynist. But also, that was one response, and then the second response, which I hope we can delve in a little deeper,
Mm-hmm.
was, "What if I turn around and did blackface?"
Mm-hmm.
That was the second response that she gave.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I'm not going to say that triggered Black people, but we were like, okay, now how did we get drawn into it?
Well, but the thing about it is, it was done in jest. How long was blackface done in this country without African Americans saying anything about it, or
Oh,
without having them having any
Generations.
recourse about it? Okay, and you know what? We got over it. I'm not saying it was right, but you know what? Comedians have a lot of leeway these days. Some of the things that they do are extreme poor taste, and some of the things that they do are a little over the top. But you know what? Look at what they do on Saturday Night Live every Saturday with President Trump, okay? Especially
Oh,
when
that's
Alec
funny.
when Alec Baldwin was on, and when he was doing it. And those skits are hilarious. They are. But you know what? It's done in jest. It's done in jest. And, even the skits that come on Jimmy Kimmel, they're done in jest. We have to be able to laugh at ourselves. And when we put ourselves out there as a public figure, at that point, you should not have the understanding of privacy.
But I think that goes to a deeper point and a
Mhm.
bigger issue, right? Because where do we draw the line in free speech, right?
Yeah.
Because on one end, you have, in the cultural realm of it, and I said the reason why I say it's a much deeper issue than what we see on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Culturally, where does that put us? Well, you have one president of the United States who is trying to tamper down on things that don't make him and his people look good. So, for instance, when you had the whole, was it Jimmy Fallon?
Mm-hmm.
Not
What
Jimmy
is it?
Fallon.
Jimmy Kimmel?
When you had Jimmy Kimmel
Mm-hmm.
and how he tried to get his show shut down and CBS tried to fire him.
Yeah.
You have one side, and this, like I said, it plays to a deeper issue because you have one side of the aisle who are totally out of sync with the mainstream culture.
Right.
Right. But at the same time, they so desperately want to fit in, no matter how much they make the Hollywood jokes, the this, the that, the third. They so desperately want to fit into a culture that has seemingly
Mm-hmm.
pushed them out.
Right.
And I'm not blaming the culture because you have done things to hurt people
Right.
in ways that it's gonna take a long time for them to bounce back
Right.
from and
Right.
heal.
Right.
And the culture does not want to accept you. And since you know the culture doesn't accept you, what do? You put your name on an arts building, right? You turn the Kennedy.
You try to force it down their throats.
Right.
Yeah.
But force it down their throats to the point of this is what we're going to see as entertainment, or this is what we're going to see as comedy.
Right.
Right? So that's why I said it pales to be a bigger issue, because you have one side of the aisle that is doing complete damage and wreaking havoc not only in the United States but throughout the entire world.
And they're attempting to.
Right.
They really are. Yes.
But they still want to fit and be accepted by the culture.
Right.
And the culture is saying,
No.
You don't get to destroy or attempt to destroy or
And degrade and defame.
right one aspect of it, and then you want us to accept you
And embrace.
and embrace what you do, and that's not it. I mean, that's not how this works. And now you have a president who briefly was in the entertainment world. Well, I wouldn't say briefly, he was in there for a while.
Right.
Now he's trying to have put all of these billion-dollar people in place to take over what they call mainstream TV, and to
Right.
take over news, to make him not look bad, to have people not laugh at him, to have people not make fun of him, to have this forced love for him. So I mean, I know we talk about this conversation in jest, but it is pale to a deeper issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think Joy Reid said it best, and if you ever
Mm-hmm.
if you ever look at Joy Reid's podcast,
Commentaries.
Yeah.
Yes.
she said it best. She said, that the right is so angry.
They are. Yeah.
You've gotten everything you pretty much wanted. You've forgotten everything that you pretty much wanted out of.
And you've gotten to control most of what you wanted to, but there are going to be facets that you simply cannot.
Right. So what are you
Yeah.
still angry about? Why are you still mad? Why are you still? And she turned around and she answered her own question
Uh-huh.
and saying, you're angry because you're not being accepted.
Right.
You're not being accepted at the cool kids table.
That's
You're
right.
not being accepted at the Oscars. You're
Yes.
not being accepted at the Emmys, at the Grammys.
The things that matter.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're not being accepted. Nobody wants you around,
Right.
right? So it's like, I'm going to beat you over the head with this, but I want you to accept this beating. And I want you to take this beating with enthusiasm and joy.
Right. Right.
So I mean, it's it's a diabolical situation.
And the thing about it is, isn't it funny, Rebecca, how it all comes down to, and all of this is centering around humor and what is considered funny.
Right.
And when you cannot see yourself in jest, when you cannot laugh at yourself. I was one of those little kids. At first, when I was growing up, I wore my feelings on my sleeve. Yeah, I was from a family. Oh my gosh, I was from a family, and this is for generations, where you had to have a really hard shell in my family because they teased everyone. They teased everyone, and if you weren't born with it, you developed it pretty quickly. And we learned how to laugh at ourselves, and to know that it was not being done in hate, but it was being done in satire or in jest. Okay. And I think for the most part, our president and many of the people around him are not able to. No, I'm not even gonna say that. Many of the people around him are able to see.
Oh, not the people that are around him now.
Oh, wait a minute. They're able to see the gist of it, but they don't want to admit it. When they see it, I bet they absolutely roll over. But they can't do it around him. They can't show him that it's funny because their heads were cold.
Because when people talk about Jake Vance and that couch, oh my God. I'm sorry. Every time I see Jake Vance, I get a visual. But he didn't find that funny at all.
Well, but the thing about it is, a lot of times people don't find it funny when it's about them. But when it's about somebody else, they are rolling over. Okay,
yeah,
it's funny.
But that's the point that I'm making. When jokes are being made about the people around Trump, they don't laugh. They don't find it funny at all. Like, you know, they doing what they're doing now. Okay, well, you said this about me, so I'm gonna get you shut down. Like they take it to
Another
whole
level.
another level. And that's why I said it's gone beyond just what the surface is. What is the deeper meaning of it? And the deeper meaning of it is that they're not accepted by the culture. And because they're not accepted by the culture, you know, since I can't be accepted by the people that I want to be accepted by, I'm gonna just go ahead and do my best to change it.
Or to shut everyone down. If I don't like what I'm hearing, I'm
Right.
going to try to silence it. Rebecca, on that note, let me tell you what I heard the president say. I'm going to say, I heard the clip about a week and a half ago, but I know that the clip was an earlier clip. But I heard him say this about the type of leaders that we need in this country and the way that they need to be perceived by the mainstream. We don't need to have leaders that are weak leaders that show a weakness or that have disabilities and handicaps and this type of thing. We don't need that because that's now not how people need to see America. And I will find that clip. And the thing about it is, what's so ironic to me is that we have representatives, we have Congress people, we have governors, we have other people serving in high capacities in this administration who are people who have disabilities, or people who have family members with disabilities that are rubber stamping this type of ideology.
Right.
That's the thing. At what point do you decide that it is not okay to do this, even when what's being said is against your own best interest or that of your family? At what point do you say, you know what, I'm going to grow a tail and start wagging it because this is just not right? At what point do you grow some balls and stand up against that? Or do you ever? Is it ever a good thing to do that?
Um, it is, but now I've had the pleasure, and I don't want to say I've even had the pleasure because that sounds like I take joy in it, and I don't.
Mhm.
I now know why Trump is the way he is, and why people are scared to say anything to him and about him because of the dirt that he has on them. He has a lot of now. Trust me, it's dirt on him too.
Uh-huh.
It's,
But what?
it's a lot of dirt on him too.
Yeah.
But he has dirt on other people. And we know that now. No.
But he's not the only one who has dirt on people.
No, but he has the goods on people.
He doesn't have any more goods on other people than they have on him, and they got goods on him.
But they're not going to, but that's the point. They're not going to exercise those goods.
Why?
They're not, because okay, so let me just say this. I've read a lot of the Epstein files.
Right.
And the stuff that I read, is sickening. It's
Yes.
past sickening. Like, it's disgusting.
Right.
So, but I started putting two and two and three and four together, and I said, okay, this is why they're scared to go against Trump. Because Trump has all of this dirt on them. And on top of, he can easily primary them. And and these people don't want to lose their seats. So it's a twofold thing. I don't want to give up the power that I have, and I don't want the dirt getting out on me, because even if he primaries me, at least I have a chance to get back in there. But if he puts this dirt out on me, which the dirt is disgusting dirt, then I will never see political office again.
Hold on a minute. But the thing about it is,
He has them.
look at what's happening by the short and curlies, right? But the thing about it is, look at what's happening all the way down the ticket, as far as the types of things that he's doing to disenfranchise his own people from his ideology.
But he doesn't care though. That's the thing. He's a believing narcissist. So
Yeah.
he does not
Yeah.
care about all that. You
Right.
know, as long as he can stay in power, he
Yeah.
don't give a damn who he disenfranchises.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that's the scary part of the situation because Trump has all of this dirt on all other Republicans,
Yes.
with the exception of two people, which is, Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna. He has dirt on all of these Republicans. So all of these Republicans are scared to say something. They're scared to go against him, not only in fear of losing their seat, which is the biggest fear, but also because of the dirt that he has on them.
They're afraid to go to jail.
Right.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm not going to say anything. Whatever this man wants, I don't care how ridiculous it is. I don't care if it breaks the Constitution. I don't care if it does anything. I'm going to go along with it because I cannot have my reputation ruined, and I don't want to lose the power that I have.
Well, how does that explain the position of the women?
What do you mean?
How does that explain the position of, like we've talked about before? I have to have a grudging, but I have to have a grudging respect for Marjorie Taylor Greene at this point, because whatever it took for her to stand up against him, it seemed like that she was having to uphold it, and finally that Epstein file broke the
Yeah, because I said that. I said, well, what she saw, and then later a lot of it started dripping out.
Right.
Whatever she saw in them Epstein files, it turned her stomach.
Yeah.
To the point she said, "Oh, I can't do this."
Right.
So.
But the other ones, why didn't the other ones? It was
Well,
her stomach the only one? Well, they weren't on the panel, I know.
Yeah,
but
I don't think the other ones got to see what she saw.
But the thing
Because she saw the unredacted stuff.
You know what? Here's the thing. Now you have. Let's go on into the next thing that we were talking about, Rebecca. Kristi Noem. Pam Bondi.
Mm.
And both of them have basically said, even though I was, kicked out on my butt, I'm still going to support him. And
that's for now. I think that's for now.
You think so?
That's gonna come to an end. I think about all the women that supported Trump, and was heavily supporters of him, Megyn Kelly, and just the few off the top of my head who supported Trump, who rode with Trump. Yeah, I think that's gonna come to a head too. They support him as long as it is convenient for them at the moment. But I do think he's going to.
But do you think they'll roll over on him?
Oh, of course.
You think so?
And of course.
How long will that take?
It just depends on how long Trump has his mouth open.
I like that. But the thing is, we're talking about 2 weeks apart. Kristi Noem, or maybe a month apart.
Mm-hmm.
Kristi Noem and then Pam Bondi, and to see exactly how they were grilled on the stand, when they were testifying, and they could not back up what they were saying with any type of validity at all, and it makes it clear as to why these ladies were placed in their positions. Why do you think they were placed in their positions?
To take the fall for Trump.
But initially, why do you think they were placed in?
Well, one, because they have a certain look that Trump liked.
Yes.
And also he knew that he could also they could also take the fall for him. Like he's doing right now. He was saying, well, this is everything that's happened with ICE is Kristi Noem's fault. Everything that's happening with Pam Bondi and how poorly she performed the day that she was in front of Congress,
Right.
That's her fault. and this is her. And then
And they were doing all this trying to protect him.
right. And then even with Caroline Lovett, he
Yes.
said how much of a bad job that she was doing.
Isn't that something?
And
So you think she's next?
oh, of course she is. But see, the thing is with saving Caroline right now, she's pregnant. So she's going off, and she said that she's going off on maternity leave in May.
So he probably just will have her not return.
Exactly.
And will that at that point will he have a full male?
White male staff, with the exception of the housing department, the HUD guy.
Right.
But he's gonna do something that's gonna piss Trump off, and he gonna get rid of him too.
Well, and the thing about it is, you know, Rebecca, America is made up, and it is quickly becoming a much more of a melting pot than it's ever been in historically. Okay, and the thing about it is, this melting pot of people are not becoming less educated. They are not becoming less savvy. They're not becoming less political. And when you move to disenfranchise people at this rate, how are you positioning yourself in the future? It's almost like there is no future sight looked at with this administration, because when you disenfranchise this many, when this administration is no longer, and you disenfranchise so many, that many people are not going to be in your corner the next time. And what you are doing is making it horrible for your party to come along and ever be able to recover from that. And I'm wondering if that ever crosses people's minds.
Well, no, because I think they're banking on Americans having a very short memory.
Right.
They're banking on
Let's make the time.
okay. I think they're banking on Americans having a very short memory, something that we always do.
Right.
Clearly, we got a short memory because now we see that Trump is back in office with all the horrible stuff he did in his administration. There was no way he should have been able to run for president ever again.
Right.
But again, and I think that's what they're banking on. I think they're banking on Americans having very short memories about what's happening.
Very short memories, and the fact that, to see to what, when you look on YouTube and you see the way people will defend inexcusable behavior, I think that there has been a precedent set that even when you're wrong and you know you're wrong, the worst thing that you can do is admit you're wrong.
Right.
That didn't used to be the case. There was something called character that was in place in this country. There was something called character that was in place for the people who are our leaders, or at least the perception of having good character. It seems like that's flown out of the window. Flown out of the window now. That's not even a prerequisite.
Yeah, one of the things that boggles my mind, and then we can get into the SAVE Act if you want. One of the things that boggles my mind, and I couldn't understand why it boggled my mind so much, but now I have an answer for it, I guess.
What's that?
One of the things that boggled my mind was when people would say, people are voting against their own interests. People are voting against their own interests.
What is that about?
And I want to tell people from Rebecca 101 that none of these people are voting against their own interests. And I don't understand why we are afraid to say what's really happening.
Which is what?
Racism.
Yeah.
Racism is their interest. One of the things that the reason I figured this out, the reason that we don't have universal health care now,
right?
The reason that the United States is not moving into a more socialized environment,
especially for things like education,
right?
And having education that is equitably funded,
right? Colleges that are equitably funded. I mean, you have colleges around the world,
right,
who are far greater academic wise than the United States. That is 3/4, 66% less, 75% less than the cost of it is now.
Right.
I believe to my heart and soul that the reason we have not moved into a more socialized America is simply because of racism. And I'll explain why.
Yes.
There is a segment of society who don't mind their rights being taken away from them if it means that Black people, and not just Black people, but all people of color, don't have access to anything.
Isn't that something?
They would rather America burn. They would rather for their own rights to be taken away than to have minorities have a slice of anything. Because equality feels like oppression. And I don't understand why
Yeah.
we have not, why we can't say this and why this is a secret.
And the thing about it is, Rebecca, you know, it's not like it's a hidden thing. It's right there in front of our faces.
Right.
And this is a fact. This is a proven fact just by doing the numbers and the math. And scholars have proven this. The more opportunities that people create, the more opportunities people have for higher education, the more opportunities people have for to be able to build businesses, the more opportunities people of all ethnicities have to elevate and advance themselves, the more opportunities they create for others coming behind them.
Exactly.
And you know, think about this. You know, let's really think about this. If people had been able to have the types of opportunities that they should have had since after Reconstruction, if people had been able to have those, think about the strength of this nation at this point for other countries to be able to come in and buy our best students at the best think tanks,
Right.
as far as technology is concerned, and to be able to take that technology to other countries to develop it before we can get a hold of it. That's a lot of things that we're losing in the grip of trying to keep things away from people.
Right. And everybody's talking about the development of China and Japan. Well, one of the things that China and Japan, both countries, are doing, their billionaires pay 90% of the tax rate.
Right.
This is why they're able to move into a futuristic time.
Right.
Because their billionaires are paying their fair share of the taxes, which does indeed trickle down. I didn't understand trickle down government at first.
Right.
But now I understand trickle down government, and everybody's saying trickle down government don't work. But in theory, trickle down government does work.
Right.
When you have billionaires paying, when you have Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, which Warren Buffett does, he's probably one of the few and only billionaires that do. When you have them paying their fair share of taxes, then it sets a cost for the rest of the country.
It's a precedent. Yes.
Right. So then, because they're paying their fair share of taxes, then everybody else can prosper.
Right.
That was the whole reason there was such a golden age in the 50s.
Right.
Because you had Rockefeller, you had Carnegie, you had the Rockefellers, you had the Carnegies, you had the Edisons, you had all of these people who were the Vanderbilts. They were all paying they were paying 90% of the tax rate in the country, but rightfully so, because they were the richest families in the country. So that's why your grandpappy could go work at a grocery store
and make a living for your family.
And make a living, and grandma could stay home on a grocery store salary.
Right.
And pay for a 3 or 4 bedroom house.
And raise all the kids.
And raise all the kids.
And send them to college.
And send them to college,
yeah.
Because these billionaires paid their fair share of taxes. You don't have that now. they're trying to find ways to escape not paying their fair share.
And the vast majority of people will never realize the American dream as it is right now. And until we get another uh, ideology at the table in Washington, the vast majority of people will never realize the American dream. With the average price of a house being $350 to $400,000 in this country, so how's somebody making $60,000, $70,000 a year, even $80,000 a year, going to be able to afford that? Unless every person in the household is working, and they'll simply be working, towards the mortgage where they're paying interest only. They'll never own the property.
You're right. Right. So that's that's where we're at with it. Like, where I guess that's where my frustration is with America, right? It's like we have the knowledge to move forward, but because we're stuck in this, the haves and the have nots, then we can't possibly move forward. We can't possibly move forward as a nation because you have a certain demographic of people that said that I would rather have everything taken away from me than it to be any kind of equity, and I'm not even saying equality.
Right.
Because there's the big difference between equity and equality.
Right.
And I explained that a couple of podcasts.
Excuse me.
Okay. So you can give me and Crystal the same one piece of bread. That's equal. But if Crystal hadn't eaten in 4 days and I ate an hour ago, that one piece of bread is not gonna fill us up equally.
In the same way.
In the same way. So that's what I'm saying. America does not. Here, we're in the year of our Lord 2026, and we cannot seem to move forward because we have people with antiquated ideas that say, well, you know what? I don't want to give up my privilege, and not even give up privilege. I don't want to extend my privilege to the next person because, and I'd rather not have it at all if it meant for you to get a little piece of it.
Well, and the thing about it is, it's interesting. Excuse me. It's interesting how just within the last 8 years, I'm sorry, so I always have to apologize for my allergies, but in the last 8 years, it's been a open season for people to start displaying outwardly what for many, many decades they kept inward and they never say it out loud. Maybe they were saying it out loud, but with the advent of the internet, people are videotaping it for posterity and they are chronicling it. How some people are, because the guy living next door to you, the guy living over across the street, you never may have known that they were a racist. You may not have ever known that they were a classist until something happens, and now you've got it on videotape.
Right.
But people, for many years, people were, you just didn't know how people were.
Mm-hmm.
And now, people have been exposed. And one good thing about that is that you can't, once you are out of the closet, you can't go back into the closet.
Exactly.
So once this administration is one for the history books, and it's coming soon. Once this administration is one for the history books, we're going to be able to see exactly how that kind of situation plays out, because you can't go back in. Once you have shown your hand, you can't go back in. There is a person that I know who is a man who is a Latino gentleman, and to see how he defends this president, regardless of what he does, regardless of what he says, regardless of how degrading he has been to Hispanic people in America, time and time again, and it is preserved for posterity in videotapes.
Mhm.
To see the way he defends that, it's the kind of thing that is such a blatant, it's a blatant display of, I don't know what else to call it, Rebecca, except, is it, what I call it, a self-hatred? Because when you see someone who looks just like you and your relatives, being manhandled by authorities and ICE and this kind of thing, and you can defend that, and then when all the smoke clears, it was the guy who's is a second generation American, and they weren't able to prove anything to authorities because they were in custody for a week before they could do anything. How can you defend that kind of thing when it's so obvious that things are being done and things are racially motivated? Is it because you want to have close proximity to what you think privilege is?
Um, just to give a small little history lesson, and I do mean small. I'm gonna try to make this as quick as possible. I couldn't understand the correlation between Latinos and Black people going back to the civil rights um era, other than Cesar Chavez and
Right.
farm workers. But I did a little research one time because uh video on TikTok pulled up and it really interested me. But the guy, he was a historian. He was a Latin historian.
Right.
And a very sharp guy. Got his PhD in Latin history.
Okay.
From Harvard University. But anyway, he he said, well, during the civil rights era, when Black people were fighting for their rights, the Chicano people were, gearing up to fight for their rights too.
Correct.
And a lot of them took a lot of the lessons from the civil rights movement.
Right.
To fight for their own rights because they weren't accepted either.
Right.
Well, he said the powers that be at that time looked at the situation. And when he said the powers that be, I knew he meant the federal government.
Right.
Looked at the situation and said, wait a minute. If we have these quote unquote Black and brown people fighting for their rights together, then they surely are going to have all of the rights. So we have to figure out a way to divide,
Separate them
and conquer them. Because if they all start fighting for their rights and fighting
collectively,
fighting for their rights, then we are in a lot of trouble
Right.
as a white society.
Right.
So what they did was, and this was, as segregation was coming to a close. Segregation was still very much in force, but it was
Right.
coming to a close. But anyway, he said, what we'll do, since we don't accept them either, we will accept a few of them into our spaces. We won't treat them as equal, but
We'll make them think that they're accepted.
it will make them think that they are accepted. So instead of having them go through the back door like we would do Black people, we'll allow them to come sit inside. Now they can't sit in the front of the restaurant, but we'll allow them to come in the front door and sit in the back. Okay. But the key is that they have to be as close to whiteness as possible. So what does that mean? That means they can't come in with a heavy accent. They have to be very, 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 very light skinned, straight hair. They have to look the part to be accepted. And you had all of these restaurants, these businesses, these banks, only, which was about 10% of the Chicano population, giving them the quote unquote
privilege
of being in the circle. But again, that came with a stipulation, and the stipulation is they had to assimilate to whiteness as much as possible for them to
So fast forward
So fast forward.
to the election of 2024, and we have people down in Florida who were so absolutely embracing the current administration. And he was eating it up only to be in for 3 months and fast track ICE.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the same people who were embracing this and rallying around and cheering are trying to figure out why their relatives have been deported.
Right. So why did I bring a history lesson into play? Because when you're trying to understand, wait a minute, how can they even accept these people how can these people, because a certain amount of them were allowed to get bank loans for housing, to get loans to start businesses, to do a lot of the things because they look white. They were close to whiteness. So fast forward, a lot of them, even though they still don't have the privileges and will never have the privileges of being totally white,
As long as that's the thing.
as long as that's the thing.
Yes.
A lot of them, when I say a lot, I don't mean a whole lot, but a lot of them collectively have been, you know, accepted but ignored
Right.
in those spaces. And they feel like, oh, because I'm in the space, then I'm one of them, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But when you're in the space, you're still treated second class.
Right.
You're still not wanted. You're
Right.
still talked down to. You're still made fun of. You're not a part of them, but you're in the vicinity. So it's like you're in the cafeteria, but you're not at the cool kids table, if that makes sense.
Well, and the thing about it is, and I don't think that, and we don't mean that to disparage
Right.
anyone, but we just want people to really, really wake up and understand what is really happening around them.
Right.
And it's going to be very, very important that you look out for your own best interest and the best interest of the people who are like you, the best interest of the people who have your same um, uh, collective experience. Because when you have a situation whereby people feel that anything that is not like them is a threat, don't ever think that you will not be considered as a threat.
Right. And I think that's where you have a lot of Hispanic people, Latinos, I'm just going to say,
Right.
who are so gung ho and, oh, they accept me and, oh, okay, this, that, and the third. Because in a way, to them, being seen is acceptance. And it's not.
But you know what? Here's the thing. And you know what? And you have to give 10% for grace. Because I think that, and I'm glad that this happened. I think that 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 Republican Party, in many ways, they've shown their hand now.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people who may have thought that they actually were genuine about what they were trying to do, now they've shown people who they are. And I would simply say, when they show you who they are,
Believe
that.
the first time.
Yes, collectively know that people who have your same um, uh, life experience have a right to be in a certain place, have a right to build their lives, have a right to build dreams for themselves and their families, and make sure that there is a future in place. And if that is considered a threat by anyone, if you being able to move forward and build your life in this country and make a better situation for you and your family is considered a threat by anyone, be very wary of that group who considers that a threat. Because like I said before, it's been proven that when people have an opportunity to reach the pinnacle of what they can do, they reach back and grab someone else. They reach back and create an opportunity. They start businesses. They are creating opportunities for others to come along.
Right.
It's not the opposite.
Exactly. So real quick, I want to dive into the SAVE Act because I know a lot of people don't understand what that is.
Ooh, before we do that, let's end on saving. Let's go with
Okay.
that in Texas. How is that playing out? Because I know
So
we're teachers, so we're always gonna circle back around to what's going on with teachers and what's going on with schools.
So the next thing on our docket is school vouchers and
But before we even hit
private school and school vouchers.
before we hit school vouchers, Rebecca, and I want you to explain this a little bit more. I was watching TV yesterday. I was watching the news, and Governor Abbott came on, and it's amazing how it's become popular not to tell the whole story. And he's basically saying that I am fighting to eliminate your property taxes, eliminate your property taxes. But the thing about it is, property taxes were enacted. Property taxes were enacted to fund public education in the state. He's not talking about lowering the property taxes. He was talking about eliminating property taxes. Property taxes, that's what pays for our schools. That's what pays for our schools, our school districts, anything that has to do with the education of our children. And if you eliminate that, what is that effectively doing?
Okay, so before we answer that, let me
Yeah.
just say, I get it. To the taxpayers, I get it. I understand. You're paying for a mortgage.
Yeah.
You're paying for car insurance. You're paying for homeowners insurance.
Right.
You're paying for all of these bills.
Yes.
And not to mention if you have kids and all of the things that come with the kids. So I understand that you need a break from your wallet. I get it. Wait a minute, hold on.
Okay.
Because I don't want people to think that we're insensitive towards that.
Right.
I get it. You need a break from your wallet. And I know when you hear property taxes,
Or no property taxes.
no
Elimination of property
property
taxes.
taxes, I know in your head of heads, you say,
I love it.
I love it because this is giving me a break out of my wallet. I get it. I get it. And then with the price of gas that is going up, some say we looking at the summertime, $8, $9
Right.
of gas going into cars now. You need alleviation from somewhere.
Right.
And I understand that. I understand it. As a
Yes.
taxpayer myself, I get it. But we have to understand how this is affecting the other part.
The trickle down. The trickle down. Yes.
And the other part of it is that yes, doing away with pay taxes might alleviate your wallet in the short term, even in the long term. But look what that is going to do to your school system. Now, a lot of you guys are in areas where you absolutely love your school system. A lot of you are in Fort Bend, you're in Cypress, you're in Alvin, you're in Pearland, you are in Katy, you are in Humboldt and Spring, you are in your districts, and you're
Right.
in New Caney, y'all are in your districts and you love your school district.
Right.
But with the elimination of property taxes, that means that Texas at will fully fund your schools. I know some of y'all are thinking, well, what's wrong with that? That should happen. The problem is you have a governor and an administration in Texas that does not believe in public education.
Right.
That
believes
lies in the
It
problem.
all needs to be privatized.
If he believed in public education and he was a staunch advocate
Yes.
for public education, I could say do away with property taxes. Let's
Right.
go.
Because he found another way to fund it.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's not. So you're going to get alleviated from your pockets in one arena, but in a whole nother arena, everything that you love about your school district will no longer be there.
And Rebecca, can I throw this in? can I throw this in? And then you can kind of jump on the tail end of this because I know that you know exactly how this will play out.
Mhm.
Here's the thing. What he is trying to do at this point is when we say privatized schools, we're not talking about just private schools. We're talking about what he considers to be charter schools.
Right.
Charter schools are created by private entities. If Rebecca and I wanted to open up Rebecca and Crystal's charter school, and we are two chefs, and we own restaurants all over the state, we can say, we want to open Rebecca and Crystal's private school. Let's say that we are staunch snake snake worshipers. Okay. And in our charter schools, we want to open up these charter schools. And what we're going to do is decide that we're going to have cooking classes that are taught. They're going to learn that half of the day. And we're going to not have any extracurriculars, only maybe have a food truck outside of the, where we teach the kids to sell the food. They don't have to take any higher math. They don't have to take any higher science. They don't have to really matriculate that well in English or anything like that, because it's our premise to get them to where that they can be in a service industry and be the best that they can be as far as food service is concerned. And on top of that, we're going to make sure that for an hour of the day, we teach them about snake worship. Okay. Okay. See where I'm going. I'm being ridiculous for a reason. Now, if we present that to our state board, right?
Mhm.
And the state board says, okay, that's fine, because what the governor actually wants to happen is to be able to control everything that we are taught as far as critical thinking. In our snake worshiping school, we don't teach critical thinking. We teach one way to cook a lasagna, we teach one way to fry chicken, we teach one way to make a chef salad. And it's not encouraged that we teach anything else.
Right.
And if that is going to stick within the close proximity of what is not going to challenge what he wants done, then our charter school will probably be approved.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line. And like again,
Controlling what people can learn.
the thing is, parents, the reason you guys are stakeholders in your school system, the reason they're stakeholders in, the reason that parents are stakeholders, the reason that community leaders are
Yes.
stakeholders, the reason that, even teachers are stakeholders.
That's right.
Sometimes they don't see themselves as stakeholders, but they are. The reason you all are stakeholders in the school system is simply because you pay property taxes. It's no different than you owning stock in a company,
Right.
right? When you buy stock, you buy a share of that company. That
Right.
means that
You have a say.
you have a say in that company because you have bought pieces of the company.
Right.
Well, it's no different than you being a stakeholder because you guys pay property taxes in the city of Houston, in the state of Texas. You guys have a say in how you want your schools ran. You have a say on what you want teachers to teach. You have a say in what goes on where your children goes to school every day. This is why you have an elected board,
That's
right? You have an elected board because taxpayers are paying money to the states, which the state in turns give them a governing board to put things in, not only in school but around school education and around school
Right.
world, to make decisions.
And to represent that particular community the
And
way
to-
that they want to be represented.
Exactly. So here's the bottom line. Even though taxes will, even though, taxes is eating up your pocketbooks in every sense of the word, if you don't have that piece in there, if you are no longer paying property taxes, that means all the things are now at the mercy of the state. So if they want to remove your elected board, they can do so. If they want to put whoever they want to over your elected board, they can do so.
If
So
they want to take out all sports, can they do it?
they can.
If they want to take out all extracurricular clubs, can they do it?
They can do whatever they want to because the people no longer answer to you, the stakeholders. They answer
To the company.
to the governor.
Or the company that's running that charter. Yes.
The governor,
Yes.
because if the governor basically still has to get out the charters,
Yeah.
the charters and the contracts. I mean, it's actually the state board of education and CEA, but they all answer to the governor,
That's right.
right? So this is how all of this works.
And Rebecca, the thing about it is, it wasn't about, it's interesting to me how it's never been about lowering the property taxes.
Right.
Because you see, in lowering the property taxes, that would actually put people in a better advantage because they would still have a stake. They'd still be a stakeholder.
Right.
But he doesn't want that. He wants to completely take your autonomy out of it.
Right.
So if it's not coming from, so you don't have any say. If your property taxes are lowered, that would be a bonus for you, and you would still have stake there. But that's not the idea.
Right. Because you have a again, because you have a governor and the governor's administration, not just him. They don't believe in public education.
Right.
And the reason they don't believe in public education because they understand an uneducated population is
It's
a
a controllable
population.
That's right.
Because you don't know no different.
That's right.
Right now, we're in a situation in Houston, Texas, at Houston Independent School District
Right.
that is being taken over by the state. HISD right now is the guinea pig
Right.
of what's to come.
If we don't do something about it
And we don't do something about it.
at the general election.
It's the guinea pig of what's to come.
Yes.
So right now you have a superintendent by the name of Mike Miles, Floyd of Mike Miles,
Right.
who is doing whatever he wants to do, literally,
As a hand puppet of the governor.
as the hand puppet of the governor. So if one of those board members, which I have a feeling 2 or 3 of them are getting ready to be removed, and they just got there because
Right.
they're questioning him too much, and he doesn't like to be questioned
Right.
about anything. When that's just an example that I just gave. So if he doesn't like the questions from the board members, if they have legitimate questions about things that he's doing and things that he got going on, if he feels uncomfortable with them, he will have them removed. And there's nothing that the people can do about it because they are board of managers people from the state
Who've been appointed.
who've been appointed by the
They
governor.
have not been
Now,
elected.
I just spoke at the recent board meeting 2 weeks ago. One of the things that was said at the board meeting, well, 3 weeks ago, one of the things that was said at the board meeting, they were calling themselves trustees.
Right.
And the people in the audience were getting frustrated with that. So one of the elected trustees,
Right.
Pastor Michael McDonough, who I got everybody to vote for, had to call them out and say, hey, no, you're not trustees, okay? Trustees are people that are elected,
Yes.
okay? You, on the other hand, are not elected. We don't even want you here.
You're appointed.
You are appointed by the board of managers. Well, one of the tokens on the board, Angela Flowers, I know you,
Mm-hmm.
I called her a token to her face, so it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
One of the tokens on the board, she was saying, well, it's a matter of semantics. No, darling, it's not a matter of semantics.
No.
Okay. Board of managers are appointed by the governor. The
Right.
trustees are elected by the people.
Right.
That is not a semantical situation.
Right.
You are not a trustee because nobody voted for you. As a matter of fact, when you tried to run for school board, you lost and lost badly. So,
And you know what, Rebecca, I hate to put it to make this at the least common denominator or the most basic level. But let's be very clear. Right now, in my history class, we're at the place where we are just ending the Civil War. Okay. I've got to teach about, of course, about slavery and about how, Reconstruction happened after slavery and how people had to we had to start rebuilding our country after that point. But please understand And you know, even though you may not want to accept it as fact, but there was a definite reason, Rebecca, why it was illegal for a slave to be educated.
Mhm.
By law, slaves were not allowed to learn to read and to be educated. I wonder why that was. Because what happens, the more education people have, the more they will begin to question their circumstances or say, well, if I understand that in this way, then why do you have this and I don't? And it's been proven that this is a fact and this is not. People question the more educated your society is, the more you cannot get away with.
And
Yeah.
then too, on top of this, so let's bring this back to the vouchers, right? Because there's been a couple of private schools, highly academic private schools that said that they are not taking vouchers.
That's
I
right.
want you to hear this. And this was my argument when the whole voucher scheme came
That's
up,
right.
because it was, in the rumbles
Right.
on social media that a lot of the private schools were
I'm
not
not gonna tell them.
interested in the vouchers.
That's right.
They didn't even understand what was the point of Greg Abbott bringing this up.
That's right.
Right? So now you have a couple private schools that are coming out now and saying, no, we don't want the vouchers at all. We have no use for
Yes.
them, no need for them.
Right.
So where does that leave us? Well, if you have schools, and by the way, private schools have a right to say, because they're not publicly funded schools.
They can accept or reject whoever they want.
Right. And they can tell the governor thanks, but no thanks. And a couple of
Yes.
them have already done so.
Oh yes, several.
And I'm
several right here in
sure,
Houston.
right, and I'm sure more of them are going to across the state. Why? And this is not a knock on private schools, but they already have the students that they want.
And the waiting list.
Right. And if they need more students, they could just go to the waiting list and pull whoever they want to pull.
That they know that they're going to get their full tuition every month.
Right.
Let me say this, Rebecca. Back when I was in grade school and high school, I went to a private high school in Houston. They had a waiting list back then, and they could accept or reject whoever they wanted to on that waiting list, or for the people who just applied. And you had to take an entrance exam to get into that school, so that, and you had to interview.
All right.
So it's not just a matter of saying, well, I want my child to go to a private school. You may end up very well in a situation whereby you may get this private school that pops up in the middle of the night, and their tuition just happens to be for whatever amount that voucher is. And
that was the point I was getting ready to make.
Yes.
Because it's like, okay, so if the reputable, that's the term that I want to use. If
Right.
the reputable private schools don't want the vouchers, where is the voucher money gonna go to? I'm glad you asked.
Mhm.
They're going to have mom and pop, quote unquote, private schools.
The Snake Worshiper School.
Right? So what does that mean? That they are literally taking tax dollars, okay? And Crystal will tell you,
Away from the public schools.
I was all over Austin during lobby day,
Yeah.
26, 25, asking, where are y'all getting this money from? I went to the Democrats and I went to the Republicans.
Right.
The Democrats said that the Republicans ain't told them nothing.
Right.
Okay, well, great. Let me see if they'll tell me. Right. So I went to the office, and smugly a lot of them was like, well,
He can't talk to you right now.
right.
Well, even when we went up with the teachers union, they couldn't talk to
Well,
us.
that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. They couldn't talk to us.
They didn't want to talk to us. They felt like that question didn't deserve an answer. Right. And I told Crystal when we were leaving Austin, I said, Crystal, one of two things is going to happen. I said the rainy day fund that they promised teachers, they're going to take money out of that and pay for the vouchers because that was $67 billion in the rainy day fund. I said, or they gonna hike the property taxes, and then the revenue from those property taxes is gonna go into the private schools. Because they're so hush hush about it, I said one of those two things are going to happen.
And Rebecca, here's the thing, and please understand this well, because I've heard so many people on some of these threads and some of these other educational podcasts that are out there talk about, and they've got parents really excited and thinking that this is going to be a great thing for their student, and they're going to be able to send their kids to private school. Guys, please understand this. Most private schools out there like the fact that they can be elitist.
Right.
They like that. They're not trying to get everybody representing every aspect of society. That's not necessarily what they want. They want people who will fit very, very comfortably into a certain type of category.
Right.
Yeah. And if, even though your child may deserve it, your child may be academically, well, guess what? They already have scholarships for people like that within the alumni associations and and organizations like that. They fund scholarships because they can handpick for the kids who can't afford to go there. They can handpick the ones they want to go there, and they will give them a scholarship to go.
And let me say this to the parents. I understand, right? Because I think a lot of people don't have empathy on you. So let me say this. And I think sometimes as teachers we forget parents' insight in a lot of things.
Right.
I understand a lot of you may not be happy with your child's public school. Flat out. You don't like what's being taught there. You don't like the discipline measures.
The discipline. It's mostly the discipline. It
Right.
stems from that.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't like you don't like it at all. And I get it and I understand it. But I know a lot of you always saying, well, I need another alternative because
Right.
I don't like this for my child. And I get it. The problem is, parents, because the money has been siphoned off
Right.
from public school, as long as I've been a child,
Right.
they have been siphoning, and when I say they, I mean the state of Texas,
Right.
has been cutting education funding for as long as I can remember.
And we have more children in the school system pipeline now than we had before, but the money is being taken away.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you do at that point, right? Y'all have to come together as parents and fight in Austin, right? And that's just the simplest solution that I can give. Because if the private and you have some public schools who are well funded, right? You have some that are
Absolutely. Some school districts are very well funded.
But then you have others that are not.
Right.
Right? So for the ones that are not, you have to go fight for your piece of the pie.
That's right. And the thing about it is, for the ones that are, Rebecca, that money's being snatched from you too.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what this all boils down to, is funding. Right? And I'm not saying, yes, teachers need to be paid more, yes, but it's not all so much in paying teachers more, even though I do believe to my soul that teachers need to be making $250,000 a year. That's just my personal opinion. But you also have to look at teachers are not being paid like they need to be compensated. Resources are not being allocated like it needs to be allocated equitably, not equally, equitably. So you have all of these issues, and it's not just on the brown and black side of town.
Right.
It's even on the rural side of town.
Right.
You know, I understand why Robin Hood was important, you know, taking money from the big school districts and filter it down to the smallest school districts, but it should have been another way, because the thing is, those dollars are needed to fund those big school districts.
Right.
They're needed. And I'm gonna be honest with you, just being very transparent. I was for Robin Hood, but then I realized once I started getting into educational data and the research and how schools are funded and financed, I realized that was a mistake, because those schools needed that money, but they needed to come up with a plan to fund the rural schools as well as the big schools.
Rebecca, make no mistake, this has been a very, very calculated effort. I'm going to say for the last 30 years, since there's been a certain party in uh, control in Austin. The ability to, on the school level or on the district level, address behavior issues has been systematically taken away from the teachers and the schools. Okay. Everybody knows that when you can address discipline at your schools in the way that it needs to be addressed, that is going to make the teacher's job categorically easier. But when that's taken away and you have the discipline that's out of control, it's going to look like it's a failure.
Mhm.
Okay. So when it looks like it's a failure, as far as discipline is concerned, the kids are swinging from the chandeliers, then that's going to trickle down to what is able to be disseminated within the classroom. So when that begins to fail, when one begins to fail, then the other begins to fail, then parents start wanting to take the kids out of the school. It is a systematic uh, um, way for it to look as though this these school districts in these big districts, these big blue districts in Texas are just failing.
And that's why I say taking property taxes is not the answer.
Yeah.
Because when you do that, since it's like Crystal says, since it's already a systematic undertaking,
Yes.
think about other systems that's going to be in place to undermine that same thing when it comes to the public school system.
Right.
So is it calculated? Yes. But here's the thing, and this is why I get on parents. And I know parents, I get it. You work, you gotta provide a living for your child. You gotta just getting them up and getting them on the bus every day or taking them
It's a
to school
task. Yeah.
is a task. Then you have to worry about your own household being taken care of, making sure bills and food and the kids' dinner and doctor's
Yeah.
appointments is taken care of. But at some point, parents, you're going to have to figure out a way to come together, to come together as a unit of parents. And then you are going to have to take people that y'all vote for to task.
That's right.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of the reasons, and I'm not blaming, I'm just explaining.
Right.
A lot of the reasons why these people are able to get away with what they're able to get away with is because they know y'all not gonna say nothing.
Yeah. And you've been taking it for so long.
And you're gonna complain on social media, you gonna have your point across, but at the end of the day, you are not going to do anything that is going to result in a change, right? So I know everyday life is kicking your behinds, right? And even that's by design. This
Yes.
is why billionaires don't pay taxes. This is why, because they want you frustrated and stressed out so that you won't have to worry about these problems.
Your attention is diverted.
Right.
Yeah.
All of it is by design. But at some points, parents, because this is coming down the pike now, plans are being made.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to Austin on Tuesday. I am speaking up for social studies teachers across the board because of the curriculum changes that are coming.
And speak to a couple of those. Just make a couple of points to that. We're both social studies teachers.
So the new social studies curriculum starting in the 26-27 school year is going to look a lot different than it's ever looked before from K through 12.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be taking out a lot of Black history. They're going to be taking out a lot of LGBTQIA history. They're going to be taking out a lot of Trail of Tears.
Anything that makes certain people feel uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
It's being taken out of the curriculum.
Not that it didn't exist, not that it's not historically accurate, but it makes certain people feel uncomfortable.
Right. And I find it funny that they're doing this on a Tuesday in the middle of the day when they know that teachers are at work and in school and they can't go
And
testify for themselves. But I'm in a unique situation right now, so I can do it. And I'm going to go stand up at State Board of Education.
Right.
And I'm going to testify about why this is wrong and why this shouldn't be. First of all, social studies teachers are not asking for any of this. We've never asked for this.
That's right.
One of the problems and the issues that social studies teachers have been having is that the standards was just too many.
Right.
Okay.
They didn't address that. Mm-mm.
A typical standard for math teachers and reading teachers, because they are standardized testing, is like they teach 80 to 90 standards per year.
Mhm.
That's standard. For social studies teachers, though, from grades 3 through 12, we're teaching 180, 175, 190 to 200 standards TEKS a year. That's way too many for a social studies teacher to be successful. Now, why is this important? This is also important because this is why social studies they don't do well. When I say they, students don't do well
On the STAR test.
statewide
Yeah.
on the STAR test, because there are
Too
too
much
many standards
Too much information.
that you have to get in, and you don't know what standards that they're coming.
And social studies is 100% what?
Memorization.
If you can memorize the 200 things,
Right.
well,
So that's what the social studies teachers have been asking for,
Right.
which the state has not done.
addressed. They have not addressed that.
Okay. So when we were asking for streamlined TEKS, I remember one year you had looked at the TEKS before I did for the whole social studies. I was so excited. The naive Rebecca. I was so excited. I was like, yay, streamlined standards, finally. And you were like, have you seen the standards?
Yeah, they just changed some things in it, but it definitely was not streamlined.
Mm.
And the thing about it is, Rebecca, here's the issue. When you're a social studies teacher, one of the things that you have to do, what is your charge, is to present the facts
Right.
of what happened. The facts of what happened in this country are the facts, and you cannot change them regardless of how uncomfortable they may be. It is a reason why certain things make us feel uncomfortable. Maybe we should need to feel uncomfortable about it so that we can have discussions and be able to settle some things that need to be settled, or to talk through some things. But as a social studies teacher, especially as an American history teacher that teaches from colonization through Reconstruction, that's the hard part.
Right.
Okay, that's the hard part that deals with slavery, and that deals with the injustices to humanity that were going on. As a social studies teacher, I have kids of every race sitting in my classroom. All I do is present the facts. I don't editorialize it at all. We lived in a different time then. People had different types of ideas. These are the facts. I'm gonna lay them out, and you decide what you want to decide.
So
about that.
instead of streamlining the TEKS, which every social studies teacher in the state of Texas wants,
Yes.
they decide, no, we're going to take important information, pertinent information out. And not only that, we're going to heavily teach religion. And not all of religion, the Buddhist, the Christianity, the Buddhism, the Islam, the
Right.
Judaism. No, we want to make sure that a lot of this is 100% Christianity aligned.
Right.
So this is where we have a problem, right? So how does this play back into the vouchers in the state of Texas? Well, if they get rid of the property taxes, right? The vouchers, and let me just say this, the voucher is another guinea pig situation.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can do with education with the vouchers first before we take over the actual public education in the state of Texas. So let's just push out Bluebonnet curriculum. Let's push out this. Let's push out that. Let's push out this. It's a test subject. So then if it goes well, then we can get rid of property taxes, and then we can fully
Control everything that you learn.
everything that you learn. So all of this has a price to pay. This is why we tell people to go vote, right?
Yes.
This is why we tell you your vote matters. This is why we tell you that voting in this state is imperative, because everything that we're talking about now is tied to a legislation.
Right.
Okay.
To a law.
To a law, which is legislation. But there are people that's in place that put these legislators together for them to come up with a law. And then you're putting people in office who do not have your best interest at heart.
Yes.
Lawrence was here explaining how
Yeah.
there's a legislative piece
Yeah.
to being a lawmaker, and then there's a district piece to
Right.
being a lawmaker. And I think he said that so beautifully because people need to understand the legislative piece, and then they need to understand it's more than about what goes in and out of your pocket, although that is important.
Right.
Because that is your livelihood and your survival.
Right.
But it's also another piece to it. And if you don't put the right people in office, then that piece of it will go against you and what you stand
And your
for
and your best interest. Absolutely.
and your best interest. Bringing it on to the SAVE Act. This is another thing that's important since we're talking about legislative and lawmaking.
Right.
Girl, I haven't used my besides the three.
But here's the thing. Explain, really break it down to the most basic common denominator of what that means and what that will mean to women. Because I know we only have about 3 minutes left.
Okay, so the SAVE Act is actually the Save America Act. Okay, and the thing is, it's a voter ID law. Okay, that's basically what it is. And I know you're thinking, but we have voter ID law in Texas. Yeah, we do, but Trump wants to extend it
Another
further.
level. He wants another level. Yes.
So, with the voter ID law, what they're saying is your driver's license and your voter registration card is not going to be enough for you to vote. You are going to have to bring in addition to those two things, your birth certificate and your social security card. Okay. Now, what if
And all the names have to match.
Oh, yes. And all of the names on every single document has to match. So, Rebecca, what if I'm married and my husband's last name, I have my husband's last name, and on my birth certificate is my father's last name? Well, I'm glad you asked.
You better hope you married a man with the same last name as your dad.
Exactly. Because what is happening is you still will not vote. Well, Rebecca, I have my marriage license. That don't matter. That's not even in consideration. Okay. So your birth certificate, oh, your passport too. Your your birth certificate, your ID, your passport, your voter registration card, all of those documents you have to bring in to vote, and they all have to match each other.
And it can't simply say Crystal Y. Dillard. It has, if one of them says Crystal Y. Dillard, all of them have to say Crystal Y. Dillard. It can't say Crystal Yvette. It can't say Crystal Dillard. Nothing like that, because they don't match.
Right. So, but Rebecca, the state makes the election laws, not the national government. What is
Yes.
Trump trying to do? Well, you have states that will adopt
Right.
the national law. So, for instance, there's 12 southern states that will adopt Trump's ridiculous law if it's passed into law. What do you think one of those 12 states are?
Of course, Texas. And here's the thing, and this is what is so difficult for us to understand. All you have to do is go to several credible outlets and resources and find that the amount of voter fraud, when I hear people call into shows and say, well, we got all these illegal aliens voting, stop being naive, stop being gullible. Don't simply listen to what someone says. Do your own due diligence. It has been proven that the amount or the percentage of anyone who is an illegal, a person who is here illegally voting is so minuscule that it doesn't even show up on a
No, Crystal.
Yeah.
No, Crystal. No, there has not been any illegals voting. The fraud has been on the Republican side.
Yes,
of the aisle.
yes.
Every voting fraudulent
Yeah.
situation. Because think about it, realistically. It's hard enough to get y'all to the polls.
Right.
Why you gonna fake it?
And the thing about it is, if you are a person who is not here legally, why would you raise a flag by going to the polls and attempting to vote and take a chance on having yourself and your whole family put under the radar to possibly
Right,
get
because
destroyed?
if you
That's not smart.
right, and then you
Don't just listen to what people are telling you.
oh, and then the other part of this that a lot of people are not talking about. So along with the voter ID bill, because this is exactly what it is. The second part to it is that every governor would have to give their voter rolls to the federal government. Texas has already done it.
Mm-hmm.
Texas was one of the first states to do it because we have a kiss ass as a governor.
Right.
And so, but yeah, so what are they going to do with that information? Well, because of the technology that they now have in Washington,
Right.
they can purge you off the rolls for whatever
At will.
reason.
At will.
At will. They don't need to give you a reason. They don't even have to tell you
Yeah.
that you purge from the rolls. So even if you have all of your documentation, let's just say I go to the polls and I have all of my documentation, and because I'm not married, all of my documentation is the same. And they say, oh, wait a
You
minute.
know, like what you said on that podcast last week.
Right. Oh, Rebecca, you're not on our rolls. Well, what you mean? I just voted in the primary.
Right.
That don't matter. You're off our rolls, so you are not allowed to vote today.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why you have got to be so be careful of what people are telling you. And women, regardless of the party that you affiliate with, understand when your rights are being attacked. Please understand when your rights are being attacked, and know that at a certain point, it's not about a political party. It's about your rights as an American. Think about it with the 19th Amendment, Rebecca, when we were able to get the right to vote, you know, how people had to fight for that because you are someone who has fought. We're talking about professional women, okay? Don't step back and let parties that be affect your right to vote and take part in a political process that has taken us years to get to.
Exactly. So all of this that we're doing now, you see the destruction that's coming.
That's
right?
being attempted. Absolutely.
That's being attempted
Yes.
to come. Gas prices are through the roof. Iran, I know your president came on the scene 2 days ago talking about that the war is almost over. That's not true.
That's not.
Iran just struck down a plane
That's
with
right.
American soldiers in the plane.
That's right.
Nobody knows where their bodies are. Nobody knows if they're dead or alive.
Right.
They're unaccounted for. Then you have a secretary, and I'm not calling it Secretary of War. I'm sorry. You have Secretary of Defense because that's what it is.
Yeah.
You have Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
I'm so used to calling him Cake's Breath.
Yeah.
that is now urging people to sign up, and they have even extended the draft, not only saying that women can be drafted, but they have also extended the age of the draft. Normally the age of the draft was cut off at 26. Now it's 42.
Don't do it.
So you see all of the turmoil that is happening around you, and like
That
I said,
didn't have to happen.
right, and like
It's
I said,
unnecessary.
gas prices will be by the end of the summer $10 or $11. It is going to be.
If things continue at the rate that they're going, absolutely.
Y'all have to go out and vote. Y'all have to go out and exercise. Now is not the time to sit and be frustrated and say, you know what, forget it, to hell with it. And I know it's overwhelming. I do. I understand all of these issues are overwhelming. I understand that they're very tiring. I understand it's like we get one piece of progress and then we push 10, 12, 13 steps back. But we have to keep fighting for what's rightfully ours. Because if we don't, then we will be sitting in the same position as a North Korea, as
And,
a Argentina.
and yeah, yeah.
You know.
And see, and this is the thing, and then we are going to have to say goodbye, Rebecca. We could talk forever. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, stop following blindly behind someone who does not care at all about your best interest, who is very willing to send your children and your grandchildren into harm's way for something that his own intelligence has said was not a threat to our country. Stop putting yourself in that position. It is okay to say, you know what? I made a mistake. And what I'm getting ready to do now is correct that mistake at during the general election. You know, correct your mistakes. That's what we have been taught as Americans. When you make a mistake, be able to step up and put on your big girl or big boy pants or skirt and correct that mistake. Don't let it continue to snowball and until the point where you have lost someone special to you and he hasn't lost anybody. Let some of those 40-year-old sons of his go in and serve. Let them be the first on the line, or maybe they have, what is it, bad feet or whatever it was, bone spurs, yeah, on their feet. Let them go in, and then let's say if they're at the front of the line, then everybody line up behind them and make sure that they have a situation whereby if it's needed, that they could be on the front line too. Let's see how quickly things will change. But Rebecca, do you have anything that you want to add before we leave today?
Actually, I don't. I do. I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
Just like I said, I will be in Austin on Tuesday. I am testifying before the state.
Invite other teachers to join you.
Yes. If you can come up to Austin on I think it's the 6th.
Yes.
I'm
Tuesday.
supposed to be doing an interview with KPRC on this event. So just check me out. I'm still in the fight for teachers. Because I believe this is important. I see what you all are going through. I've been there myself, still going through it. So I understand exactly. And I'm just trying to be a voice and be a change that I want to see in the education world.
And what I want to see also, Rebecca, not just teachers, I want to see administrators stand up and also be counted.
Yeah.
For what's happening, because it's not just the teachers in the classroom. This is going to affect schools from the top to the bottom. I want administrators to show that solidarity with their teachers, and trying to make sure that we are trying to right some of these wrongs that have happened or that are in the pipeline to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But Rebecca, because we had to kind of wing it today, I'm going to have to get up and sign us off. But like we say every week, please follow me on Facebook. Please subscribe to me on YouTube and like us on, where do we like? Is it Instagram? Where you like us on Instagram? I gotta remember my social media handles.
Like and share.
Click like and share, yes. And if you want to be a part of this podcast, please let us know in the comments, and we would like to have you on. If you want to have a discussion with us, if you've got a different perspective, let us know, because it's about getting those voices out to the people. It's about getting different ideas out there and letting people make their own decision about some of these different topics from some independent people who have nothing in the game except for trying to do the right thing for our community and our public schools.
Well, that's it. That's all. All right. Signing off.
And like we say every week, we can do it.
Bye,
See
guys.
you later. Bye-bye, guys.